with Repaint, where you can always repaint something. Today we are going to talk about all the different types of paintbrushes that are out there, synthetic versus natural brushes, angled versus straight brushes. Many times you'll be cruising down the aisle at the paint store and staring at all these different brushes and paint rollers, not knowing which one you need to use for your project. So today we're going to go through all the different paint brushes that you can use for your different projects. First things first, we're going to start with a natural fiber type paintbrush. This is usually made from an animal hair. These are going to be much better for an oil-based paint or an oil-based stain type project where you're restaining a table or something like that, or you're using a varnish or polyurethane, something to that extent. Something to keep in mind is you do not want to use this with a water-based paint or a water-based stain. The water will actually absorb into these natural fibers, and then it'll actually kind of make these bristles go limp, and so you're not going to be able to get the best finish with this type of brush when you're going to be using it with paints. You could get a lot more streaking. So when it comes to actual painting of furniture or painting on a wall, cutting in on the trim, you're going to want to stick with more of a synthetic type brush. The size of the brush, or angled versus not angled, can honestly come down to whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you prefer, the different length of a handle, size of the handle, size of the brush. It's whatever you're going to be most comfortable with. What I typically use, depending on if I'm painting a large room, if it's a smaller project, I'll use a smaller brush, but I'm typically using a 2.5 inch angled brush. It makes it much easier to get control when I'm cutting along a ceiling or down along the trim. Also, just angled makes it way more crisp along those lines. Otherwise, for some rooms, I would also use a 2 inch angled brush. I've gone all the way down to a 1 inch angled brush. If I'm doing a smaller bathroom or tighter spaces, sometimes that smaller brush can actually help get in those tight corners. So really it's going to come down to a preference. These synthetic brushes are going to be your go-to. It's going to be your everyday workhorse when it comes to any sort of painting project. A 1 inch to a 1.5 inch, a lot of times that's going to be better used for more detailed work or just little touch-ups here and there. But again, I've used it for going around the entire trim or ceiling in a small bathroom before, so again, it's up to you. A 2 inch paintbrush to 2.5 inch paintbrush, again, you can use that around the trim. Otherwise, I've used it around cabinets, doors. That can be really helpful. Otherwise, this would also be a really good general size of paintbrush that you would need. 2.5, like I said, I use this one. It's well loved. This one I've used for multiple projects, again, for more so painting a larger room if you need to cover a wider surface. I have not generally used a 3 inch trim brush like this, but again, this is going to be for a bigger type room, maybe some exterior painting or wider trim and doors, larger surfaces, like I said, that you need to cover. I'm most comfortable with a 2 to 2.5 inch type brush, but again, you can go up to a 3 inch brush or even wider if that's something you're comfortable with. Typically anything bigger than a 3 inch brush, especially a flat brush versus an angled, that one you're going to typically be seen used outside for rougher surfaces or fence staining, something to that nature. When it comes to foam brushes, please do not use these for actual painting projects within your home, like painting walls. These are going to be best used for kids' craft projects, something to that nature where you're painting a pumpkin, you're just doing something fun with the kids on a canvas. Otherwise, this can be used really well for just like a quick little staining project. Probably not if you're looking for a super professional finish, but these can be a really quick, cheap option if you really have nothing else. But I really only recommend these foam brushes when you're just doing a kid's project or something for fun that's going to hang out. Also, I want to note, we love Zibra brushes, not to call out a specific name or brand, but I use Zibra brushes all the time. Again, this one is very well loved. This is a brand new one that I just got. They come in so many different shapes and sizes. Again, this could be used for mural type painting, or if you're doing something on a canvas. Again, it's going to come down to the preference, but like this one, for example, has kind of a square angled top. You're going to get some really crisp lines with this and more detail, thinner lines. We've used it in murals before. This one has more of a tighter a tighter fit with all of the bristles. So you're gonna get, again, some really crisp lines compared to something like this where you can see the bristles are further apart. There's a little more room between them. But this one also has a palm fit. So again, it's whatever you're most comfortable with using, but there's so many different shapes and sizes of brushes. What it comes down to is just testing out what you're most comfortable with and what you really like, and then kind of perfecting that size and that style of brush with whatever project you're working on. So let us know what you think. What kind of brushes do you use? Are there any brands or certain types that you really prefer? Please let us know in the comments. We want to hear from you, so other people can get your feedback and get an experience of what other people are using out there, because these are just they're not the end all be all. There's so many options out there, and we want to hear from you. So stay tuned for Painting with Repaint, and we will be able to share some more tips and tricks when it comes to painting and best options for your next project.